the reek of the past lingers still within its walls, although almost everything has changed as the decades slipped by. The colorful fabrics that were among its most infamous inhabitants' few possessions have long since vanished, ripped out as though to erase an awkward and embarrassing episode. But then the story of Queen Victoria and her exotic Indian manservant Abdul Karim, whose grace and favour home was Frogmore Cottage, was nothing short of a grand royal scandal. Indeed, the relationship between the two was considered so controversial by the Queen's family that upon her death in 1901 they scrubbed his existence from royal history. Letters between the two were ordered to be burned, while every reference to him in Victoria's journals was erased. Karim himself was thrown out of the house and deported back to India. In the years that followed, the property, deep in the grounds of Windsor Castle, became a refuge for exiled royals and old retainers, and forever filled with the ghosts of history. It is reputed to be where Lord Louis Mountbatten was born in 1900. Typically self-aggrandizing, he claimed his birth was in the more princely Frogmore House. Now, with the news that it is to become the official home of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, it is readying itself for a new chapter in that extraordinary history. There are other places nearby with stronger claims to the past, Fort Belvedere for example, across Windsor Great Park, where Edward VIII signed away his kingdom rather than give up the love of Wallis Simpson. Also in close proximity is the Royal Mausoleum where Victoria was interred next to the tomb of Prince Albert. But none, surely, can match the intrigue of Frogmore Cottage, not to be confused with its grander and more famous neighbour. Frogmore House, the fairy tale Georgian pile where Prince Harry and Meghan held their wedding night party. Since that May Day, the Duke and Duchess have been looking for their own private oasis. They have spent time in a rented farmhouse on the Great Tew estate in Oxfordshire, close to the private members' club which they like to frequent, Soho Farmhouse. But it was never going to be a permanent home, and Frogmore Cottage offers an elegant solution to their exacting demands, with privacy their number one requirement. Frogmore also occupies a special place for the royal couple, not just because of the wedding reception. They used it as a backdrop for their engagement photographs, in which Meghan wore a £56,000 couture gown, and have travelled down to Windsor often over the past 6 months to wander unseen in the park. The house stands only a few yards from the Long Walk, along which the couple rode so handsomely in an open-topped landau during their wedding procession. While a visit to Harry's grandmother will mean a 5-minute walk up to Windsor Castle, should they so wish. This is a place that already holds powerful emotional resonance for the newlyweds. The spot retains the enchantment intended by its creator, George III's wife, Queen Charlotte, of a magical glade hidden amid trees. While Frogmore House itself was designed as a pavilion where the Queen and her daughters could pass their days painting away from the Mad King, the cottage had a more humble purpose. It was built for her gardener so he could be close to the Queen's glasshouses, where she grew the shrubs and trees that were planted out in the surrounding park. This tranquil location has always been a royal favourite. Not just for family picnics and walks, the Queen likes to exercise her 2 remaining dogs, Duchess, Corgi and Dachshund crosses, Candy and Vulcan there, but also because it houses the royal burial ground. Indeed, the only other American divorcee to marry a Windsor prince lies just a few yards from the house where Meghan is going to live. The Duke and Duchess of Windsor are interred side by side there. Frogmore Cottage is a pretty modest way to describe a property with potentially up to 10 bedrooms, though it is more likely to be 5. It is currently subdivided into flats to accommodate staff working for the Crown Estate. by the time of its multi-million-pound refit, it will be transformed into a luxurious family home with a nursery, gym and yoga studio. It has been a family home before, of course, but its most notorious incarnation was as the home of 24-year-old Abdul Karim, known as the Munchie, or teacher. This mysterious figure gained extraordinary influence over Queen Victoria, for which few could account and even fewer could stomach. Members of the royal household loathed Karim and saw him as nothing more than a charlatan, but the Queen would not hear a word against him, even from her most senior courtiers. The two met in 1887 at the time of Victoria's Golden Jubilee, when the 68-year-old Queen had been Empress of India for 10 years. She was fascinated by this jewel in her crown and longed to know about the lives of ordinary Indians. To satisfy this curiosity, she engaged some Indian staff and 2 khidmatgars, male servants, to wait on table, duly arrived. In her journal she describes them thus: the one Muhammad Bush, very dark with a smiling expression, and the other, much younger, called Abdul Karim, is much lighter, tall and with a fine, serious countenance. They both kissed my feet. His father is a native doctor in Agra. Within weeks the astute and charming Karim was teaching Victoria Urdu, hence his nickname. Instead of menial tasks he stood by the Queen's side to perform her every wish. The two became inseparable. In many ways he replaced John Brown, the Highland retainer who died a few years earlier. Karim's closeness, told in the Judi Dench film Victoria Abdul, excited resentment and jealousy. Royal physician Sir James Reed told her, according to his diary of April 4, 1897, "There are people who say the only charitable explanation is that your Majesty is not sane. And the time will come when, to save your Majesty's reputation, it will be necessary for me to come forward and say so." Nothing was too much trouble for the Queen where her beloved Munchie was concerned. She made him Indian Private Secretary and a Companion of the Indian Empire, awarding him the Eastern Star. His name appeared in the court circular of royal engagements and his portrait was painted. In return he introduced her to chicken curry and dal, a dish which soon joined the royal menu. Yet on Victoria's death, his influence evaporated overnight. Edward VII had him banished and Frogmore Cottage became a more conventional grace and favour home. Queen Mary's brother, the Marquess of Cambridge, lived there briefly, as did his daughter Lady Helena Gibbs. From 1925 to 1934, the cottage was a safe haven for Grand Duchess Ksenia, one of the few members of the Tsar's family to escape the Bolsheviks. In more recent times, the property has been used to house junior royal chefs. Ksenia added a wing, which still survives. Darren McGrady, who started his career in the Buckingham Palace kitchens before becoming Princess Diana's chef at Kensington Palace, lived there for a time. While undoubtedly romantic, the cottage does seem an unusual place for Harry and his former actress wife to raise their family. But they are, I am told, drawn to this seclusion as well as the history. Harry also dislikes the claustrophobia of Kensington Palace, where every exit gives onto a busy road and there is precious little space outside for children to play. Frogmore's position will allow them easy access to their Oxfordshire chums at Soho Farmhouse, while also being close to their other nexus of friends. Hollywood star George Clooney and his wife Amal, guests at the royal wedding, and near neighbours on the River Thames at Sunning. Plus, it is handy for Heathrow, where Meehan's mother Doria Ragland will arrive from LA and is expected to stay for extended periods when the baby is born in the spring. Perhaps, in time, Frogmore Cottage will become a new royal salon every bit as exciting as Victoria and Abdul's.